The reason why these are longer is because they're stressed. And the reason why these are shorter is because they're not stressed. That's a very important concept. What happens in the syllable-timed language is the stress increases the loudness of that syllable, but it does not increase the length of that syllable. In a stress-timed language, it's about making things louder and longer and quieter and shorter. Hi, I'm Josh, your American English guide, and this is English Hacks Pronunciation, where I help you to sound more like a native, if you want, and to understand natural American speech better. In today's lesson, we are going to start our exploration of American English rhythm, starting with the most basic level. And this might seem like it's a little too easy or it's a little too obvious, but trust me, this is one of the secret keys to really understanding and mastering American English rhythm. Now, this basic level, as we will see in a moment, it involves sounds, how sounds turn into syllables, and how those syllables are divided in the stream of speech that will create different types of languages. For example, syllable-timed or stress-timed. But if you speak a syllable-timed language, such as Spanish or Hindi, or if you speak a mora-timed language like Japanese or even Slovak, then this is the key, most important lesson that you will probably ever watch about American English rhythm.
That sounds pretty impressive. I know, right?
And also, near the end of this lesson, I am going to tell you how you can start applying this knowledge to improve your understanding of English and your speech in English today. So what exactly is rhythm? Well, as I said, we're going to start at the basic level here. Now, so far in this course, we've talked about the most foundational, fundamental level of spoken language, which are the individual sounds. That's what goes right down here. So this is E, N, T, whatever. Those basic sounds, as we know, will arrange themselves up into syllables. And this is the map of language skills. We have input, we have output. You don't have to worry about all that right now. We're just looking at the basic pieces here that we need. So we have the sounds, we have the syllables. We talked a bit about syllables and word stress in a couple lessons. Now from there, of course, syllables will turn into words. Words will turn into sentences. Sentences will turn into paragraphs. And so on and so on and so on. So there's grammar through here, there's pronunciation through here. Now, we're focused specifically on the rhythm. So how does that matter? We're not going to care about this. We're not going to care about this right now. Okay, we're not even going to care about this right now. We're focused down here. So if we look over here, this is a person and they're speaking. Okay, this is a stream of sound, right? Right now I am speaking and there are sounds coming out of my mouth in a stream, just like a stream of water or a stream of air. In this stream, if I just use one sound, right? Just very, very basic, that's our stream of sound. Just one solid sound. Now this is not much of a rhythm, right? This is just a sound. Now what happens if I break this up into equal pieces, more or less equal pieces, right? And I do, okay. Now I could speed that up and these will seem relatively shorter, but they're still the same length. Okay. Now there's no stress here yet. Okay, we're not moving that high up. That's okay. Okay, this is the most basic level. We have a stream of sound that is divided in some way. Now, if you divide the sounds like this, where they're more or less equally divided, this creates syllable-timed timing. Okay? So this is where you have a syllable-timed language like Spanish or like Hindi. All that means is that the timing for the base of the rhythm, not all of the rhythm, but the most basic level of the structure of the rhythm, is that the syllables are about the same length. So that creates the timing for the rhythm, okay? Now, what happens if, instead of doing it this way, what happens if, say, we do something like this? So let's say we have sort of a longer one, short, 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 longer one, short, short, longer one. Okay. Now, it doesn't really matter which ones are long and which ones are short, but if we do this, right? This gives us a completely different timing of when the sounds come out, right? And how long those sounds are. The duration, the length of those sounds. What I'm really talking about here is not actually the basic sounds, we're talking about the syllables, right? So obviously we have a stream of sound, but that stream of sound is just, all the sounds and all the words that are coming out, right? The word want is nt. It's only one syllable, but it's a bunch of sounds put together. This division, whether it's syllable-timed or stress-timed, either way, we're looking at the syllable level here. So this stream of sound gets divided into a stream of syllables, right? And a syllable could be as little as one sound, like the article a and the, right? Usually just gets reduced to the schwa sound, it's a single sound. Or, as I said, we have the word want, which is 4 sounds that create one syllable. We talked a bit about syllable formation towards the beginning of this course, so you can check that out. Let me know if you want more content on syllable stuff. Why exactly is this called stress-timed? That's the question, because if syllable timing is created by making the syllables about the same length, even if they're stressed, right? It's not about the stress, it's just the syllables are about the same length. That creates the timing. It's based on the syllables. But stress timing, these longer sounds, in a stress-timed language, what happens is the reason why these are longer is because they're stressed. And the reason why these are shorter is because they're not stressed. That's a very important concept, and you have to understand that to really understand and master English rhythm. If you speak a syllable-timed language like Spanish, and you don't do this, right? You say, I want to go to the beach, but you use syllable timing, you're going to try to make all those syllables the same length. And so you're going to say something like, I want to go to the beach. I want to go to the beach. You can see I'm making all the syllables about the same length. In English, I want to go to the beach. I want to go to the beach. I want to go to the beach. Not, I want to go to the beach. Okay? So it's subtle. It can be very, very subtle sometimes, and that is part of the problem. Okay? You have to develop an ear for this. Now, in addition to that, the other thing that is important to get, in a syllable-timed language, you will probably still use stress. For example, in Spanish, if you say, quiero ir a la playa, which is I want to go to the beach, the e in quiero and the pla in playa are stressed. But the length of the syllable for e and pla is about the same length, maybe very, very slightly longer, but it's about the same length as all the other syllables in that sentence, okay, and in each word, quiero. What happens in the syllable-timed language is the stress increases the loudness of that syllable, but it does not increase the length of that syllable. Now, we're not talking about intonation or special emphasis, okay? That's something a little different that we're going to talk about in another lesson. We're just talking about the basics here, okay? Just basic speech with nothing special. In a stress-timed language, you want to make sure that not only are you making the stressed syllables louder, but you're also making them longer. And in addition to that, just as important, equally important, is that the syllables that are not stressed, you want to make shorter and quieter. So it's not just about making things louder or quieter, it's about making things louder and longer and quieter and shorter. So you want to take that equal length syllables and make some longer, some shorter, depending on the stress. Now, if you can do that, and it will take some practice, but if you can do that, you will sound so much more natural in English. If you speak a language like Japanese that is mora-timed, that's a little bit different. Japanese has one piece of the puzzle that I also want to talk about for English. Japanese uses what is called a pitch accent. Now, what is pitch anyway? So there's the syllable length or duration, da, 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 okay, or da, 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 whatever it is. Then there's the syllable loudness, which is the stress. And again, both of these can use stress. That's fine. But the stress isn't about the length, it's about the loudness. In a stress-timed language like English, those two are connected. But pitch is about the frequency, right? How high is the sound, not how loud it is.
That sounds pretty impressive. I know, right?
The main idea here is that Japanese uses changes in pitch as a device to create meaning or, different things in the sound of the language. So, for example, there's the word hashi, and depending on if you put the pitch on the first syllable or the second syllable, it's going to mean two completely different things. English, of course, also has pitch. Syllable-timed languages also have pitch. But not all languages use pitch as a form of meaning. In English, pitch is not related to meaning. Okay, at least not usually. I don't think we ever do that. But what happens with the stressed syllables in a stress-timed language, or at least in English, is that not only do stressed syllables get louder and longer, but they get higher in pitch. This is a smaller point that you probably don't have to worry too much about unless it is something different in your language. So Japanese speakers need to understand that the change in pitch doesn't really affect the meaning, it just goes with the stress. Okay, so we have a completely different way that we use pitch. And one last tip before I tell you how you can actually start using this right away. Remember, this is all relative. In a syllable-timed language, right, it doesn't matter how fast you speak or how slow you speak, with the exception of special emphasis, because syllable-timed languages can do that too. Remember, we're just talking about the basic flow of speech. If you're speaking slowly, all the syllables are going to be more or less the same length in a syllable-timed language. If you're speaking fast, they're still going to be about the same length. But when you're speaking faster, obviously the words are coming out faster, so their length is shorter, but relative to each other, each syllable is still about the same length. Okay? It's the same in English. So in a stress-timed language, for example, I want to go to the beach. Okay, the things that are louder and longer are louder and longer, right? Want, go, beach. Now, if I say that faster, I want to go to the beach. I want to go to the beach. It's harder to notice at that speed, but the louder and longer words or syllables, want, go, beach, those are still louder and longer compared to the shorter and quieter ones, but the louder, longer syllables got a little bit quieter and a little bit shorter because of the speed, and the shorter and quieter syllables got even shorter and quieter because of the speed. Okay, that's another important thing to keep in mind, and it can be very hard to hear these things in faster speech. So, how do you implement this? How do you start mastering this yourself? Well, we know that there are two parts. There's input and there's output, right? There's ear training and there's mouth training. That's part of what all of this is about. You want to be doing both of those, right? And you can separate them. You can do them at the same time. It doesn't matter. But you want to be observing and noticing actual real speech, okay? Even if you have to maybe slow it down in Audacity or some program or whatever. But just notice. Don't even pay attention to the words, right? It can help to know the words because you know if it's a content word, okay, it's supposed to be stressed, but you want to hear that, right? We talked about that before. You want to hear the stress. But you're not focusing on the meaning of the words. You're focusing on the sounds and the syllables, what's louder and longer, what's shorter and quieter, and getting your ears used to trying to perceive that, okay? So that you can get that rhythm into your head and it starts to become very natural sounding. There's probably this you may not even be hearing properly, okay? Just like you might not be hearing some basic sounds at all, okay, until you train your ears. So this is part of ear training. You have to notice these things. Now for the mouth training, just like with the basic sounds, you got to play with it, okay? So you can do shadowing, you can do different activities where maybe you take something that you hear on a podcast or in a video, you isolate it, you try to shadow it, focusing on the rhythm, right? Like, I want to go to the beach. Okay, really try to get those louder, longer, shorter, quieter ones. Now, overemphasizing can help here as a training tool, not as a way to shadow, but as just a special way to get used to being louder and longer, shorter and quieter. So say there's the sentence, I want to go to the beach. You say, I want to go to the beach. Now you don't want to normally speak that way, but it will get your mouth used to making things louder and longer, shorter and quieter. It can also help to go back and review the 2 main lessons on word stress that I talked about. Again, you don't really want to rely on the rules so much. Some rules are useful, but it's about getting the sound of the language, including the stress and the rhythm, into your brain. Okay, you'll start to feel it. Now, a bonus tip that you can use is, again, look up what kind of language your language is. Take a sentence, right? Take an audio clip. So you say you hear someone say, I want to go to the beach, like I just did, and take the same sentence in your language. Now, you know how your language is supposed to sound. So you're going to, it's not going to match one-to-one, word for word, of course, but you're going to listen to the rhythm of your language for that same exact sentence. And you're going to say, okay, like really try to pay attention to the rhythm of your own language. Okay, just in general, but especially in this exercise. Listen to it, play with it in your mouth, and then go to the English, listen to the English one, play with that in your mouth. And try to notice how is it similar, how is it different. Okay, and again, not on a word-by-word basis. You're not trying to compare this word to that word. You're just trying to compare generally how's the length, how's the loudness of these various syllables. I have more content about rhythm, including intonation and all that other stuff coming up in the future, so don't worry. Linking is also a very important thing that can affect the rhythm, and we're going to be talking more about that as well. So thank you so much for watching another English Hacks lesson, and I'll see you guys in the next one.